Hello and good day, everyone. So, for today's segment, we are going to talk about unmask the cyber criminals for a course NNNX 3362 Criminology. So, in this webinar, we are going to have three amazing panelists. Firstly, Dr. Sadhna Thrukkumar, a freelance ethical hacker. Hello, doctor. And then followed by Dr. Sharveena Subahar, a cybercriminologist from University Science Malaysia. Hello, doctor. And lastly, technologist Nur Izzaty, a data analyst from Royal Malaysian Police. Hello, miss. So for today, the content of the webinar is going to be the introduction to cybercrimes and cybercriminology, latest trends and techniques used by cybercriminals, theories of crime causation, impact of cybercrime on the victims, the legal perspective of cybercrimes and cybercriminals, how to respond to cybercrimes, and how to prevent cybercrimes, followed by a little bit of case profile studies, and also lastly, the threats of artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. So before we start, I did a little bit of research on cyber crimes and cyber criminology. So I would like to share my finding and also give a brief introduction to cyber crimes. Firstly, cybercrime is defined as a criminal act that violates the law and conducted using information and communication technology, ICT, whereby a digital device or an information system is either used as a tool or the target of the cybercrime, according to the Catalonia 2016. So the examples of cybercrimes could be cyber racism, cyberbullying, child pornography, cyber vandalism, phishing, and lastly, cyber grooming. So as for cybercriminology is defined as a study of crime causation that occur in cyberspace and its impact in the physical space as according to Jai Shankar 2018. Cybercriminology is a multidisciplinary field that encompasses criminology, sociology, psychology, victimology, and lastly, information technology, followed by computer or internet sciences. So with that, I would like to pass this segment to Dr. Sadhna Thrukkumar to explain a little bit on the latest cybercrime trends.
All right, thank you, Mr. Praveen. So I'll be sharing a little bit on the cybercrime trends that I've seen in the latest few years. So the first one would be phishing. So phishing is actually the practice of tricking internet users through like deceptive email messages or websites into actually the users revealing personal or confidential information which can then be used illicitly. So the most common was during the pandemic actually because we used the internet a lot then, right? Where the phishing incidents actually rose by 220%. And even in 2021, we actually saw nearly 1 billion emails exposed, affecting 1 in 5 internet users because most definitely all of us have an email, right? And this may also partly explain why there's a continued prevalence of phishing attacks. So the next one would actually be ransomware. So what is ransomware? It's actually a malware designed to deny a user or organization access to files on their computer. So these criminals, they actually encrypt the files and then they demand a ransom payment for the decryption key. So the cyber attackers, by doing this, they actually place the organization in a position where to pay the ransom is the easier way out and is the cheaper way to regain access to their files rather than having to go through like a high tech company to actually decrypt the files. So you know where in the movies you see those countdowns on the computers until when like they will delete the files after that. Yeah, so this is actually one of the two types of ransomware, the first one being the locker type, which is just a basic function of blocking. The second one is the countdown one that I mentioned, which is called a crypto type lah. Okay, so the third one is the data breach, where the criminal actually aims to expose confidential, sensitive, or protected information to an unauthorized person. So the files in the data breach are actually viewed and shared without permission. And this is usually happens due to weakness in the technology and user behavior. So it could be like because we don't use antivirus such as Kaspersky and all that, or even like when you tend to use the same password again and again for things, that's under user behavior lah. Yeah. And the next one would be sexual harassment, which is actually considered a cybercrime, unbeknownst to many. So it can actually be defined as a harmful conduct perpetrated by one or more individuals against a victim in the cyberspace. So it's usually like through digital communication, be it emails, text messages, or social media platforms. So this will result in various forms of harm, such as emotional harm and even mental distress. And it could be like gender based harassment, privacy invasion, and more. And these harassers actually instill a fear of physical harms, and they make threats to disseminate like defamatory content such as pornographic content which feature the victim, and they even go as far as to make like create fake content featuring the victim. So the next one would be identity theft. So this is when someone uses another person's personal information such as their name, their social security number, and their credit card number, and other like these kinds of bits of information of a person for the purpose of committing a fraud or other crimes. And the next one would be supply chain attack, which is the last I'll highlight today on the trends. And this is actually a type of cyber attack that's actually carried out on the organization suppliers of information as a means to gain unauthorized access to that organization system itself. So it's basically, as the name says, supply chain. You attack it directly at the supply, and this actually involves significant planning by the criminals where they use the malicious code to infiltrate an organization system. Yeah.
Wow, that is such a very informative information. Okay. Also, it reminds me that I should actually renew my Kaspersky account. So also, what do you think, Dr. Sadhna, what contributes to the crime causation? What are the theories behind this?
All right. Okay, moving on to the theories of crime causation that have been related to cyber crimes. So these are actually some of the most frequently used ones lah. I hope Dr. Sharveena, as a cyber criminologist, you can validate these for me. So this was what I obtained from certain discussions with cyber criminologists like Dr. Sharvina. So the first one is actually rational choice theory, where this is an economic principle which states where the criminal actually they make prudent and logical decisions just like the most of us. So these decisions actually provide them with the greatest benefit of satisfaction, where they consider the risk and reward of the crime. So it suggests that they actually engage in computer crime specifically because they believe it's very profitable and a low risk activity. And in other words, they actually weigh the potential benefits of committing the crime against the potential risk of getting caught and punished in the crime. Yeah. All right. So the next one would be social learning theory. So this one actually states that people engage in crime because of their association with others who are close to them. So when they interact with them, they actually learn how to commit the crime. So it argues that individuals actually learn to engage in computer crime by observing the behaviors of the people that are close to them lah. Yeah, and they also may be influenced by media portrayals of hackers, because we usually sometimes we see in movies, right, hackers are very like successful and they're so cool and everything. Yeah, so this could also be an influencing factor. So the third one is strain theory. So this one is actually a function of two things, which is firstly the conflict between the goals that people have and the means they can actually use to legally obtain them, where that way of obtaining the goals that they have is actually quite difficult. So the members of the lower class usually are unable to achieve life comforts through conventional means. So what they feel after that is they feel very frustrated and they resent the people who can achieve those goals. Hence, they involve themselves in crimes. Yeah. So they people specifically people say that they engage in computer crime because they experience strain or pressure in their lives. So this computer crime actually provides a way for them to release their stress lah. Yeah. And the fourth one is routine activity theory. So this one actually suggests that computer crime occurs when there's a convergence of three things, three aspects. So a motivated offender, which is the criminal, a suitable target, such as a vulnerable computer system where you don't have your antivirus. Yeah, and the third one is an absence of capable guardians. So in the case of cybercrime, would be like effective cyber security measures lah. All right, and the last one would be self-control theory. So this one actually proposes that individuals who engage in computer crime, they actually have low levels of self-control. So it makes them very impulsive and they make decisions without considering the consequences. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. It kind of refreshed my memory on the theories of crime causation that has been taught by my lecturer for our criminology class. So right now, I would like to revert this question to Dr. Sharveena Subahar. What do you think is the impact of cybercrime on the victims?
Thank you so much, first of all, Mr. Praveen, for having me here today. And okay, so the impact on the impact of cybercrime on the victim is something that I have personally studied on, and this is what I have found so far. The first impact is obviously financial loss. Most of the time, cybercrime involves people stealing your money. Business and organizations that falls victim to data breaches can face like hefty fines and reputational damage, which can potentially lead to their job losses or even economic hardship on the employees itself. Cyber criminals can also steal personal information like credit card details, social security numbers, and leading victims to face challenges in reclaiming their stolen identities. The second one uh, would be emotional and psychological distress. Victims often experience emotional distress, including feelings of violation, vulnerability, and loss of privacy. I mean, obviously, someone else was in your life and they stole your information. It's general for them to feel that. The emotional impact can be long lasting and also affecting. Victims of cybercrime often experience fear and anxiety about their safety and security, particularly after experiencing identity theft or online harassment. Victims may feel shame and humiliation after falling victim to scams or sextortion, which where they extort you for money for in the form of sex, leading to social isolation and decreased self esteem. And if this continues in severe cases, cybercrime victims can also develop PTSD, where it's characterized by intrusive thoughts, flashbacks, and even nightmares related to attack. And the last one will be social and relational damage. Online scams and defamation campaigns can actually really tarnish your reputation and only also damage a person self-confidence totally, making it difficult for them to find employment or even maintain relationships. I mean, if someone used your name and catfished someone you know to get money and whatnot, obviously that person won't trust you anymore, and you would find it difficult to build a relationship with that person too. Victims may find it very difficult to trust others or even that can actually lead to social isolation and decreased engagement in online activities. Cybercrime can strain relationships with family and friends, particularly if victims um, keep their attack a secret, if they don't wish to talk about it, especially if it's like sexual harassment, sort of cybercrimes and all. They find it difficult to build relationships after that. They totally isolate themselves.
Thank you, Dr. Sharvina. I didn't know that there's so much impact on the victims, as what I know was just financial loss, but I didn't know that there's about it constitute to mental health issues and also relationship problems. So continuing to Ms. Dr. Sharvina, what do you think is, I mean, what is your take on the legal perspective of cybercrimes and cybercriminals?
All right, sure. When it comes to legal perspective, cybercrime and the prosecution of cyber criminals presents a range of challenges, obviously, to the borderless and rapidly evolving nature of the digital landscape. First of all, we can look at the international framework, such as the Cybercrime in Budapest Convention, Interpol, Europol, and Joint Cybercrime Action Task Forces. This is adapted by the Council of Europe, where this treaty facilitates international cooperation by combating cybercrime by establishing common definitions and procedures for investigating the certain offense. As in, they have a general guideline which every country can follow. Um, these international law enforcement organizations, they play a very important role in coordinating efforts to combat cybercrime across the borders, not only in their countries, but the neighboring countries also. They can facilitate information exchange and joint operations, and some countries even have established specialized units within their law enforcement agency to specifically focus on cybercrime investigations. The next one would be jurisdictional challenges and legal protections, whereby I'll talk about cross-border nature and extradition treaties, and also data protection laws and victim rights. What I mean by this is that Cybercrimes can often transcend international borders, where they can pose challenges for law enforcement agencies to actually determine jurisdiction and coordinate investigation. Like we always see this hacking from, we receive calls and all from different countries and unknown phone numbers from different country codes and whatnot. That's what I'm talking about here. Countries can rely on extradition treaties, which means you extradite the criminals back to your country to bring cyber criminals to justice when they operate from jurisdictions different from where the crimes were committed. Legal frameworks such as the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, in the European Union aim to protect individuals' privacy and personal data, imposing obligations on organizations to secure their data and report any breaches if it happens at all. And then legal systems should also increasingly recognize the rights of cybercrime victims, not only ignore them like, oh, you posted this online or you made yourself vulnerable. They should actually recognize the rights of the cybercrime victims, and they should include the right into restitution and legal resource against perpetrators. It's one of my suggestions, by the way. And the third one is attribution evidence and legislations, where digital forensics and attribution challenges of National Cybercrime Laws and Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, CFAA. This gathering electronic evidence is crucial for prosecuting of criminals, cyber criminals especially. Digital forensic tools often help investigators to trace the origin of attacks and identify perpetrators. Determining the true identity and the location of the cyber criminals can be very challenging, as they often use sophisticated techniques to hide their tracks. I mean, I'm sure Dr. Sadhna can verify that. Many countries have enacted specific legislation to address cybercrime so far, but defining those offenses and prescribing penalties hasn't been that progressive. In the United States, the CFAA, like I mentioned before, is a very key piece of legislation that criminalized unauthorized access into computer systems. Like Dr. Sadhna mentioned previously, there was a hack into NASA and the Pentagon. Since then, they've really tightened their security in the systems, and they monitor very carefully on any breaches if it happens at all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharveena. So right now, I would like to ask a few questions to Technologist Izzaty. What do you think is the way to respond to cybercrime? Can you give your insight a bit?
Well, thank you, Mr. Praveen, for the question. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Praveen for inviting me to this segment of Unmasked Cyber Criminals. So back to the questions, what are the ways to respond to a cybercrime? So actually not there are a few platforms and services that is provided from the Royal Malaysian Police by the Commercial Crime Investigation Department in distributing information about frauds, crimes to the public. So victims of cybercrime can actually like explore these platforms to overcome the issues that they are having, right? So the first one is Semak Mula. Semak Mula is actually a website or applications that allows the public to verify phone numbers or bank account numbers linked to the commercial crime cases. The second one, the CCID uses the social media platform of Facebook, their main official page, to deliver information and the latest commercial crime modus operandi to the public. The third one is CCID Scam Response Center, where it is actually a telephone line that the public may use to report internet crimes, including the Macau scam or known as phone scams. And prior to completing a money transaction, citizens can also give a call to learn more about the methods used by the internet scammers. So they can always keep aware on what's happening around them. And also the last one is the CCID info line through WhatsApp, which is a portal for the public to submit criminal information to the RMP, or known as PDRM, regarding fraud, along, online gambling, or other commercial criminal cases. The community can also ask about the status of the case through this medium. Yeah, I think that answers your question, Ms. Praveen.
Yes, it does, Technologist Izzaty. So as a forensic science student, I love watching crime series. So in this series, we often exposed to ways to prevent cybercrimes. But what is your take on this, Technologist Izzaty?
Okay, so to prevent cybercrime, there are actually many ways to do it. So I think like the most crucial thing that you must focus on is like what Dr. Sadhna mentioned just now. You have to keep your software and operating system updated. Like for example, you use your laptop for your assignments and all, right? There are always software update. For example, for Windows. Yes. There is actually a lot of known vulnerabilities in software or exploits that are a common tool used by cybercriminals to access your system. So by fixing such vulnerabilities and exploit, you may reduce the likelihood that you become a target of a cybercrime. The next one is, I think you should always, no, not I think you should, you must use strong passwords. This is to avoid using the same password across many websites, and also to make sure that you update them on a frequent basis, because most of the users always use the same exact password for a lot of their accounts, right? So you should always use a password that is very complex. For example, you should involve mixing a minimum of 10 different letters, numbers, and also symbols. The next way to prevent cybercrime is to never open attachments in spam emails. So email attachment in spam emails are a common way for computers to become infected by malware attacks and other cyber crimes. So you should never open an attachment sent to you by an unknown source. Okay, and the next one, another prevention step is by contacting the companies directly about suspicious requests. So, for example, you receive a call from a corporation asking for your personal information or data. You should hang up and go to the internet and search for their number on their official page. And also, so you should know that you can compare the numbers. So because corporation wouldn't ask for your personal data just like that on a phone call, so you should ensure that you are speaking to the right number, and also ensure that it is not a cyber criminal, and just do not give your personal data easily to strangers. The next one is by keeping an eye on your bank statements. So it is critical to recognize the signs of cybercrime early on. So if you see like there is an reduced amount on your account, and you haven't even used the money, and it's keep on like decreasing, right? So you should pay attention to your bank statement and just call the bank and ask them any question about any unusual transaction, because the bank has the ability to look for potential fraud. And the last one, another way to prevent cybercrime is by managing your social media account or social media settings. Like you have the two-factor authentication, right? And then by safeguarding your personal and private information, cybercriminals can often get your personal information with just a few points. Um, for example, posting the name of your pet or the disclosing a mother's maiden name might expose the answer to too often asked security question. So you should always be careful with what you are sharing with to the strangers on social media. Yes, I think that is all for the prevention steps.
Wow, thank you, Technology Izzaty. That is very informative. So also, I personally had no idea about dark web. I really have struggled understanding how dark web works. So, what do you think as a data analyst? How do you see dark web, and what is the role of it in facilitating cybercrime?
All right. So to answer your question, like um not many users know what is dark web, right? So the dark web is actually a portion of the internet which is hidden from search engines and casual users. It is also accessible through specific software which anonymize users and their activities. So if you use dark web, you don't even know who's behind it. You're doing really bad stuff, right? You don't even know who's behind it. So like all of us, we're actually using the surface web, which is include a website index by search engines, but the dark web is not indexed, and it is also designed to be deliberately concealed. So criminals usually use this dark web to facilitate in their cybercrime. So how does it help them to do these cybercrimes, right, to victims? It actually provides a platform for the cybercriminals to coordinate and plan attacks. The cybercriminals also use the dark web to discuss about possible targets, weak points, and also ways to avoid being discovered, maybe like from the authorities, like police. And this dark web also serves as a recruitment ground for hackers and other malicious individuals. So, for example, dark web is used as a breeding ground for corporate spies seeking sensitive business information, trade secrets, and also intellectual property. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
so much to dark web. I didn't know that, and I'm clear now thanks to that technology, Izzaty. So right now, I would like to revert a few questions to Dr. Sadhna Thrukkumar. Can you help us to decode a case study internationally?
Sure. All right, Mr. Praveen. Okay, so I'll share on two of the high-profile cases that actually are involving organizations that we all know. So the first one would be the Yahoo cyber attack in 2016. So Yahoo actually first announced the details of this attack in September of 2016, where the hackers actually stole 500 million users of data back in 2014, which is 2 years previously to when they reported it, and 8 million of those accounts were actually United Kingdom accounts. So Yahoo were actually aware of the intrusion, but they didn't realize the extent of the breach. So later in July of the same year, 2016, while they were investigating a separate data breach, they actually found 200 million customers' information were found on the dark web market sale. And the seller on the dark web with the nickname Peace was believed to be a broker of information, and they believe that it was also connected to data stolen previously from a data breach on MySpace, which was a social media platform back then, and LinkedIn. So how they found that it was stolen was it was using forged cookies. So I'm sure we've all heard the word cookies, right? When we go to a website, we see like they ask, do you want to accept all cookies, necessary cookies, or do you want to block the cookies? So cookies are actually small pieces of text that are sent to your browser by a website you visit, and they actually help the website remember the information about your visit, making it easier for you to go back to the site, and it makes it more useful to you. So what Yahoo does is they use cookies to give the users quick access to the information of the username and password without needing to re-enter it. So say if I were to log in to Yahoo for the first time on my laptop, for the next day when I went to log in again, the password and username is already there. I don't have to click I don't have to type it all in again. So uh what people believe is that these criminals actually got access to the proprietary code, which is the main code for these cookies owned by Yahoo, and hence they were able to forge the cookies, make copies of these cookies, and these cookies actually allowed them to log into the users' accounts without using a password. Yeah, but then the one small positive thing is that financial details such as like bank account passwords and credit card information wasn't actually misused or stolen either. All right, let me just share about another high-profile case, which was actually involving NASA, which was earlier on before the Yahoo one. So this was in 1999, and the criminal, the main guy behind it all, was a 15-year-old boy named Jonathan James. Yep. And at that tender age, he actually hacked into NASA and the Pentagon in 1999 using the name Comrade. So he actually stole software and data valued nearly $2 million, and this actually caused NASA to actually shut down for 21 days. And this is actually very crucial because NASA, besides providing information about space and so on, they actually support the International Space Station. So this data and software is actually used to like manage the temperature, humidity, and other things involving the International Space Station that they manage from Earth. So this Jonathan James, not only did he attacks NASA, he actually didn't stop there, but he actually went and hacked the Defense Department of the US, which what they do is actually they use all this data to reduce global threats, such as your nuclear weapons and so on. And not only that, he actually went and breached security at prominent private firms. Yeah. So by the age of 16, he was actually arrested and he pleaded guilty and admitted his mistake. But due to his juvenile age, his sentence was only a modest 6-month house arrest, and he was banned from using the computer until he was 18. However, 8 years later, James was actually accused of stealing credit card information. On this account, instead, he denied the charges and took his own life. Yeah. So, for the next part, I think, Mr. Praveen, let's turn the tables a little bit. I'm sure you're somewhat of an expert yourself on cybercrime, so perhaps you'd like to share a little bit about AI.
Sure, Doctor. Firstly, I'm very much impressed and fascinated by your case study. So right now, I would like to give a little bit insight about artificial intelligence that based on my own research. Okay, firstly, artificial intelligence, or also known as AI, refers to an ability of a digitalized computer or a computer-controlled robot to perform tasks that associated with intellectual processes and characteristic of a human, according to Britannica 2023. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, or most of the viewers here always think about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence that help us do assignments, help us create, letters and whatnot. But there are more to it. There are more examples that we use in our daily life. Firstly, I would like to talk about the smartphones. The facial recognition in your smartphones that you scan your face to unlock your phone is an example of artificial intelligence, followed by navigating apps like Waze and Google Maps. Have you ever thought, how does this app knows every single places on Earth? So that is the power of artificial intelligence, and followed by virtual assistants like Siri and Cortana. Cortana is usually found in laptops, while Siri are usually found in the smartphones. So these are the examples, common examples of artificial intelligence. But I would not like to stop there. I would like to add on a bit more on Internet of Things, that many people are very unusual of this term, but I think you guys, it's nothing new to Dr. Sadhna, Dr. Sharveena, and Technologies Izzaty. So, the Internet of Things, IoT, refers to a collective network of connected devices and the technology that facilitates the communication between the devices and the cloud, as well as the between the devices themselves. So, Internet of Things, there are a lot of common examples that we can see in our daily life. For examples, wearables, Apple watches that connects to our phones. It collects information. Smart glasses. Have you all seen a glass that can you can perform multitask with it? You can scan your document, you can listen to music and whatnot. So I think among four of us in the webinar, I think two or three of us will have an Apple smartwatch. So that is a high number of percentage if you compare in a population. So there are high risk of there are high application of Internet of Things in our daily life. Moving on, there are other examples like smart home that we use. Alexa, Google Assistant, Alexa, please turn on the TV. So stuff like that is how Internet of Things work, and followed by radio frequency identification. So when we go to shopping malls, we're purchasing stuff, we just pay wave. So that is a form of RFID. And lastly, if you have pay visited to University Kebangsaan Malaysia, in our library we have these systems whereby if you, let's say, you are going to bring out a book from the library without actually borrowing it, therefore it detects the book, I mean the code behind it, and it gives a sound. So that is the power of RFID, and that is how Internet of Things work. So why am I talking about artificial intelligence and IoT? Because these things, these two technologies, has introduced a new dimension to cyber threats, to the cybersecurity systems, as well as this technological advancement contribute to the search of cybercrimes. So how does it contribute to the search of cybercrimes? Firstly, it increases the attack surfaces. The interconnective nature of IoT devices, it collects massive amount data from a user. Therefore, everyone has smart watches and whatnot these days, right? So it collects data from everyone and it creates a platform that widen up the data and create a surface to be exploited by cyber criminals. Secondly, the sophistication and automation, the amalgamation of AI sophistication and also the automation dynamics of the AI, it identify the vulnerabilities and enable automated attacks at unprecedented speed and scale. So it happens rapidly at an unexpected time at a large scale. So moving on to the weak authentication and lack of user awareness. So many IoT devices rely on weak authentication results and opening to cyber exploitation. As what mentioned by Technologies Izzaty just now, we tend to use the same default password for every platforms we open. Facebook same password, Instagram same password. So all these platforms we use same password, and it actually opens an opportunity to the cyber exploitation that constitute to the increased risk of cybercrimes. So I'm really happy to share this with you guys. So with that, I would like to personally thank these amazing panelists, Dr. Sadhna Thrukkumar, Dr. Sharveena Subahar, and Technology Noor Izzaty for being here today with for my webinar and explaining and giving your invaluable inputs on cybercrime and cyber criminology. Thank you so much and see you.